Harper's Ferry was? Was it an actual fort, building?
Harper's
Or
Ferry
what
is
was
an
it? And
actual-
about how old was he when all this went down?
How old was
Was
he?
Brown? Yeah.
Brown was 59. Harper's Ferry is I'm sure those of you who are there can, will probably say he's not describing right, but it's basically an industrial park that has several buildings that had different purposes. There was the rifle works where they made stocks, and then they had the armory where they made the barrels, and then they had different buildings made different parts of these rifles, and then they were assembled in a certain, probably in the factory. They had a fire engine building for, I guess controlling fires, and it was next to, it's right where the Shenandoah and the Potomac River meet, and railroad runs through there. 2 railroad lines ran through there, and it's actually now in West Virginia now, but it used to be in Virginia. So it was a kind of little fort, and it only had a night watchman on two different gates, and it's really part of a town. If you can imagine the town of Harper's Ferry, the whole town is up on a hill, and it comes down to a peak where the rivers meet. And right at that peak, that's where Harper's Ferry, the actual, it was not a ferry, they just called it Harper's Ferry. It was actually like an armory, just a little factory. And so when they attacked it, they just took the night watchman off. And they took both night watchmen hostage. And then they stopped the train that was coming there, and then they made their proclamation. They went to various important slave owners, including George Washington's nephew, and they took him, took him and his slaves hostage, and they made his slaves, they freed the slaves, and then they just got to work. And that lasted all, and they did that at like 1 in the morning. It was all good until about noon the next day when the word started passing in the town, and then first people thought it was a joke, and then they took more hostages, and then guys started getting drunk, and then they started loading up their squirrel guns, and they fired a few shots, and then John Brown and his men killed 1 or 2 folks, and then they realized it was really in the fellas. The more militia came, but the militia wasn't really effective until Colonel Lee and Jeb Stuart showed up.